On this episode of the Five Paragraph Podcast, I, your host, Michael J. Penny, am joined by Karl Monger of GallantFew.org. Gallant Few, fantastic non-for-profit. Look them up on Guidestar. They're doing it right. GallantFew.org. They serve all veterans and our families. They're awesome. Check out GallantFew.org. We're here with the founder, former Army Ranger, well, always an Army Ranger, Karl Monger. And without further ado, sir, just welcome to the Five Paragraph Podcast. It's so great to have you here.
It is awesome to be here. I love your concept and appreciate the opportunity to appear on the show.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so we've been watching the Gallant Few. And folks who aren't familiar, folks who are listening, Karl Monger, GallantFew.org. He's the founder over there. And it started with the dream of helping the Ranger family because you yourself are an Army Ranger. Could you give people some background and years of service and how you've been serving since?
Sure. I appreciate that. I spent 10 years as an infantry officer and was blessed the last 3 years to be the assistant operations officer and personnel officer. So I did each one for about a year and a half for the 1st Ranger Battalion during Desert Storm timeframe. My boss at the time was a major named Joe Votel. And a lot of people recognize him. He retired as the CENTCOM commander, 4-star general earlier at the beginning of this year. And now he is the executive director for business executives for national security. And back in October of '92, we had a helicopter crash that killed 12 of my friends. And whenever I do a presentation for anybody, I always lead with the reason that I do this is because a total of 17 of my friends have died on active duty, but 12 of them died in that one helicopter crash. And that changed the course of my life because I started to refocus more on my family. I had 2 young daughters, and being an officer in a Ranger Battalion and having a young family, one has to go above the other, right? So as I went to a mindset of my family comes above being a Ranger, I couldn't be a Ranger on active duty anymore. And so I decided to leave the military. So I walked into Joe's office and told him, I'm done, I'm getting out. Had no clue what I was going to do. It was a snap decision, spurred in part by a couple of things, but the deaths of those 12 was really the catalyst that made that happen. And so I walked out of there feeling like a failure because who's an officer in a Ranger Battalion and quits, right? So I go
Under
back
good
to Wichita, Kansas, where I had grown up. I really struggled with a sense of purpose. I was, if somebody would say, hey, you were in the Army, what'd you do? Well, I tended to say more I was an infantry officer than I was a Ranger, because then somebody would say, wow, you were a Ranger, tell me about that. Well, friends died, my life changed. You just don't want to go down that path. And so it creates this little black cloud over you. So I struggled with that for a couple of years. But I started getting involved with some of the Ranger associations a couple of years after I got out, but I never really reconnected with anybody I served with. Then 9/11 happened. And when 9/11 happened, my old buddy Joe Votel was now the Ranger Regimental Commander. And when I saw that October of 2001, he and the 3rd Ranger Battalion, commanded by Steve Bannock, who was another one of my good buddies that we were there together, then I'm jealous, I'm proud, I'm wishing that maybe I'd made different decisions 8 years before. And I shot Joe an email through the military email system because I was still in the reserves at that time. And it just basically said, hey, I'm jealous, I'm proud, wished I could be there. Please tell everybody how proud we are back home. Well, he answered me from Afghanistan. And when he came back to the States, he invited me to come to his change of command in 2003. So I go back to Fort Benning. Now it's 2 years after 9/11, almost 2 years, year and a half after 9/11. And these guys jumped into the pages of history, right? That picture on my wall, that's Desert Storm Kuwait. Nobody was shooting at us though. Got credit with a combat trip, but it wasn't combat. And so now I'm going back, and I kind of wanted to just slink around the back and not make myself readily visible because I don't want anybody to think I'm trying to steal glory, right? And so as I walk up to the back, a young Ranger sees me and he says, sir, what's your name? And I said, no, I'll stand back here in the back. And he's like, sir, what's your name? So I told him my name. He looks at his clipboard and he goes, follow me. And he takes me to the front row where then Colonel Votel had reserved a seat for me right next to everybody who was anybody. So it was amazing to be reconnected and accepted back into a community that I was afraid that I wasn't going to be accepted. I thought people were going to say, "Why are you here?" And it was the opposite. And as I reconnected now with men that had been, and now there's women, but at that time it was only men, that had been in the regiment for those 8 years, now 10 years since I left. And they're telling me about some of their experiences on their combat deployments. And I can see the way they're carrying themselves with back pain, neck pain. Some of them are going through a divorce. They're drinking really, really hard. And I knew, based on my own experience as I left the military 10 years before, some of the things that they were going to go through. And I left the military the whole time that I was in the last 3 years. I was in the Ranger Battalion. I had hip pain. I had trouble when I ran. Flexibility was horrible. Well, 15 years after I left the Army, I had a total right hip replacement. And the VA says, "No, that's not our responsibility. You never complained about it when you were in the military," right? So good thing my wife's company had good insurance, because they covered that $80,000, whatever it was, surgery. So now I know that these guys on active duty are not going to the doctor and saying, "My back, my neck, my knees." They ride that stuff out because they want to keep being a Ranger. They want to stay in the unit. And then when they get out, they go to the VA, and the VA is like, "Not our problem," right? Some of that has changed, but the attitude is still there, right?
So, okay, without going any further, I'm sorry, I hate to cut you off, but this is the point where we tell our folks, if you're not already familiar with the 5-paragraph format, we're getting into the situation here of gallantfew.org. So go to gallantfew.org right now, where Karl Monger, the founder, is with us right here. He's explaining things through, but we're entering into the situation paragraph. So you see this need, this problem opportunity that's out there that needs to be snuffed out. So tell us about the enemy, sir. What's the situation?
Well, I'll start off with the friendly situation. And the friendly situation is you have these amazing warriors, these men and women, that the ones that are enlisting today, they weren't born when 9/11 happened, right? By and large. So they know, they've grown up seeing that these issues exist in the veteran world. They've heard about the veteran suicides. They've heard about post-traumatic stress. They've seen movies. They've seen all of this stuff. They still volunteer to go in, right? They know it's going to happen.
God bless them.
So we have to recognize that, and we have to affiliate with organizations that are able to help them, right? So when you're talking situation, you're talking friendly situation, there are a bunch of nonprofits out there that do really good stuff. There are a bunch of nonprofits out there that don't do squat. And you mentioned Guidestar earlier. Charity Navigator is the gold standard for checking out a nonprofit. Okay. But you have to have $1 million a year in revenue 3 years in a row before Charity Navigator will look at you. We ain't that big. So you are not going to find us on Charity Navigator. So Guidestar, you mentioned, Guidestar is a great resource to go to, because if a nonprofit they care about their image, they're going to upload their audits, their IRS reports, they're going to upload copies of their board, all of that stuff. So it's a self-reporting mechanism. If they're not on there, they're probably not very legitimate. So you need to check them out. That's part of the friendly situation. Now, enemy situation, talking about the physical injuries that happen that don't get reported when you're in the military, because you don't want to look like a wuss, or you don't want to lose the ability to do the job that you're doing. So you carry that stuff through. And some of that's emotional, right? Because you don't want to talk about the fact that you have to drink to go to sleep at night, or that you have bad nightmares, or that you're angry all the time when you're at home. So you keep all of that stuff bottled up. And then some people have a misbehavior episode where they get a DUI, or they've smoked something so that they can ease the post-traumatic stress because they can't go talk to a counselor, and now they pop hot on a urinalysis. And then what happens? You're freaking tossed out with the bathwater. And now you have destroyed your military career. You've probably hurt a relationship. Money is going to be an issue. If you have an other than honorable discharge, being covered by the VA might be in jeopardy. Getting a job is going to be in jeopardy. So all of this bad stuff comes down on you, potentially when you're trying to self-medicate because of a condition that happened on active duty that you're not comfortable talking with a professional about, right? So we got to recognize that is a huge part of the enemy situation. The other part of the enemy situation is your own mind. And I work with veterans all the time on this because, you know, the most powerful weapon that anyone has, especially a warrior, most powerful weapon you have is your mind.
Absolutely.
I had luxury is not the right term, but I got 8 weeks of Ranger School, went through it all one stop. But
yes,
but the thing that got me through that wasn't my physical stamina. It was the fact that my mind would not quit, right? So your mind can push you to do things that you never thought possible. That's when you have a mission, because I want to get that Ranger tab. When you lose the mission, when you're not part of that unit, when you're not part of a military unit that has a defined mission, and now you're working for XYZ company, and your mission is to make them more money, that's not a mission. That kind of feels like maybe I'm a little bit of a prostitute, right? So your mind starts working against you. And then if you're trying to overcome something, when you go negative, when the power of that mind goes negative, then you start defaulting to why questions. Why can't I get a better job? Why can't I quit dipping? Why can't I stop drinking? Why can't I get better sleep? And the only way you can ever answer a why question always starts with the same word, and that word is because. And because gives you an excuse and a reason to continue that behavior that you don't want. Why can't I quit dipping? Because tobacco kept you alert when you're in the military. Being alert kept you alive, kept your buddies alive. Yeah, your lips are going to fall off your face when you're 50, but hey, at least it was for your country, right? So go buy another can. That mentality sabotages military veterans right and left every day. And that's one of the biggest things we have to overcome.
Oh, my goodness. I hear it. I hear the insights. I feel it. I'm a guy who quit drinking in the middle of service and in between my combat deployments. So I understand. I'm a person who has dealt with a lot of the stuff that you're dealing with right now. And I invite my fellow compatriots to go to gallantfew.org right now. They serve all veterans throughout veteranhood. Select your branch. Go to gallantfew.org right now. We're talking with Karl Monger. He's an Army Ranger who is out to help people. So you have led us through the situation paragraph wonderfully. Could you give us the mission? Doesn't need to be verbatim,
Sure.
but what do you do?
Well, mission of Gallant Few is to help every veteran transition to a civilian life of hope and purpose. Because if you don't have purpose, you don't have hope. And if you don't have hope, why live? And I believe that's why the VA varies between 18 and 22 and 20 veterans a day take their own lives, right? Depending on what study they've done. Most recently, I saw a thing from former Secretary Shulkin that said he thinks it's more than 22 now because of COVID isolation.
Oh, yeah.
But what happens when you lose purpose?
How many have stepped out of line due to the depression and everything else and don't even bother? How many are out of the workforce? How many aren't being counted? Right? Yeah, absolutely.
And we say any veteran because we've worked with Vietnam veterans. You know, Vietnam veterans that did not have a good transition. A lot of them concealed the fact that they were Vietnam veterans for decades, never talked about their experiences. And one of the most healing things that you can do, one of the most empowering things you can do as a veteran is tell somebody else your story because it gets it out. And the first time a Vietnam veteran that's a friend of mine that I met when I moved to Texas, the first time that I got him on Veterans Day, I said, "You're a Vietnam veteran, right?" "Yeah, what'd you do in Vietnam?" "Flew helicopters." "Okay, so Veterans Day is coming up. Would you speak to our Rotary Club about your experiences in Vietnam?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know. I never did that before." And so finally he agreed to do it. And he puts together this whole PowerPoint presentation, the history of the Vietnam War, all the way through to pictures of his buddy that died. But as he's talking, he's not even on any emotional topic. He chokes up. And so we're sitting there, you know, kind of uncomfortable for a minute because nobody knows why he's getting emotional. And he says, he apologizes and he says, "You know, nobody's ever acted like they were interested in my story before."
Wow.
So, you know, and now he can't get him to shut up. He talks to groups all the time about his experience, which is important because the general public doesn't know. Kids today don't know that people back then were drafted and forced to go into the military, right? That story, that sacrifice, all that stuff needs to be told, or we're going to repeat some of the mistakes of history, right? So anyway, and it becomes a very healing thing for them to talk about because when somebody says, "Well, I get emotional about the death of my buddy," then somebody else says, "Well, I do too." So then it makes it okay to talk about it, which starts the healing process. You keep that stuff bottled up and you turn to alcohol, you turn to anger, you turn to, maybe it's sex, maybe whatever that thing is that you use to cover up really healing your soul, that it's incredibly important to heal and tell your story.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's great how you give us your mission statement and then you blaze right through commander's intent on into scheme maneuver, and how you actually go about helping people is through fellowship, if I dare make
Well, yeah,
use a
but
word,
we
right?
start because, you know, one of my philosopher idols is Yogi Berra, right?
Okay, yeah.
Ball catcher philosopher. And one of his best sayings was, if you don't know where you're going, you'll probably end up someplace else. So when you think about when you start transitioning from the military, you really don't know what you're doing, right? Because when you're in the military, you have this, go to this school, get these promotion points, pass this promotion board, make the next rank, go to this school, do this job, make the next rank. So you have this progression all the way. You can be fairly competent, maybe even borderline incompetent, and retire after 20 years, right?
Right.
You can't do that in the civilian world, because you go sit at that desk and wait for somebody to tell you what school you're going to go to or what your next job is. You're going to sit at that desk for the next forever, or you're going to get laid off. So you have to now take charge of yourself. So it's a totally different kind of a mindset. So, but before, and what happens with a lot of veterans is they don't know where they're going. They don't see where their civilian career is going to go. And when they go to school, they start wasting GI Bill benefits because they need a place to stay. They need rent. GI Bill pays rent. I don't know what I want to be, but I'll take underwater basket weaving because, you know, now I can get GI Bill benefit. So trying to establish that process is important. But before you look at where you're going, you got to know where you are now. So we start with a process, an intake process called the Azimuth Check. And if you go to gallantfew.org, you'll see a place on there where you can click sign up. It takes you to azimuthcheck.org. And azimuthcheck.org is a 25-question survey with 5 questions on each of 5 functional fitness areas. So when I say functional fitness to you, you probably think like CrossFit or some of the military, like if you're going to load rounds in a tank all day, you got to have upper body strength. So you want to be functionally fit to load rounds in a tank all day, right? If you're going to be a ranger, you got to be able to road march 8,000 miles in 2 hours and that kind of stuff. So, so when people think functional fitness, they think the physical fitness part, and that's part of it. And if you think about functional physical fitness, when you leave the military, that's, do you have an intentional fitness plan? Do you have a diet and nutrition plan? Do you have workout buddies? Do you have accountability? Or are you just getting fat, which creates more back pain, which causes other issues? The mailman's coming up. My pit bull is probably going to start barking here in just a second, just to give you a warning. She's really old though, so she's hoarse. So her terrible old bark now is more like, so anyway, the functional physical fitness is one of the 5. Functional professional fitness is money management. It's professional networking. It's education. It's job. Professional social fitness is, how much do you drink? How do you party? Do you understand that there are places to meet people that aren't bars? There's now the Chihuahua's picked up on the mailman. So here's another one. One of the other areas is functional spiritual fitness. Functional spiritual fitness is, am I thankful for my life? Whatever circumstances that you have, can you find a way to be thankful in that? It's not about being Catholic or Buddhist or Jewish. It's about having purpose, right?
Absolutely.
Functional, what am I missing here? Functional emotional fitness is understanding the power of your unconscious thought process. And if you're defaulting to why questions, can we change why can't I stop dipping to what do I need to do to stop dipping? If you can redirect that thought process, you can start moving actively towards solutions. And there's one more, I forgot which ones I've said already. Emotional, professional, social, physical, and spiritual. So those
professional
are
was the one that was missed earlier, but yes.
Which one did I miss?
Professional was the one that was missed earlier, but yes.
Yeah. So that's when we do that survey, there's a question. It's a statement on there that says, one of them is, I believe life is worth living. Right. One's not at all, 10's a whole bunch. So you rate that on a 1 to 10 scale. If you score below 7, I'm going to ask you. If you're 6, I'm going to say, so 40% chance you're going to take your own life. And sometimes the veteran's like, whoa, I never thought about it that way. But yeah. Okay, well, so why is that? So now you start a discussion about why 6 out of 10, they think life is worth living, right? Then we can start identifying whether it's anger or alcohol or relationships or whatever else that is. One of the questions on the professional side is, I follow a budget. Some of these men don't have a budget, right? They live, hey, I get paid on the 1st. I'm going to pay all my bills on the 2nd so that I have to worry about it. And then whatever money I've left over, that's for gas and food. So, we got to start talking about money management and scheduling payments and doing that kind of stuff. So when we do this Azimuth Check survey, then we get a score from 1 to 10 that's an overall adjusted score of the veteran. And we can take, if it's below a 5, they're red, right? If it's 6 to 7, maybe it's 5 to 7, then they're amber. If they're 8 to 10, then they're green. So we want to focus on the reds. We want to, the ambers, we'll get to you next. The greens, you guys are okay. We'll get to you when we have time, right? So it's a triage process for how we help veterans. This year, we have helped over 500 veterans, Gallant Few has, year to date. So you can't do everything for everybody. So as we go through this triage process, we have a mechanism to shoot information back, and then we dig into those that really need help. And then we make connections, like you said earlier. So making sure that a veteran is not isolated. Everything that the military does is always covered by an after-action review.
Yes, it is.
How many people say, what's your transition after-action review? Right? What were your 5 lessons learned? What were the 5 things you did right? What were the 5 things you could have improved on? And then share that with somebody that's just like you, that's following in your footsteps, that's getting out now. So you can say, dude, I can tell you right now, you're going to drink too much. Flat out, I'm going to tell you you're probably going to drink too much. You're going to have trouble sleeping. You're going to have some money issues. It's going to be hard as hell to find a job. You're not going to know what your purpose is. So because we know all those things, and I had a guy one time I was talking to, and he said, wait. Do I know you? I'm like, how do you know this about me? I'm like, that's like 90% of veterans go through the same thing. So he's like, I'm not weird? No, you're not weird. That's normal, right? But when you think that you're weird, when you think that everybody else is doing great because their Facebook pages are all full of roses and unicorns, and you're struggling, well, if they look at your Facebook page, it probably looks like roses and unicorns too, right? Because you're not posting all your bad stuff on there until you get way down to the bottom, and then you're like, I'm going to kill myself. But everybody has this facade on social media, but underneath, everybody's pretty much struggling with the same thing. When you start talking about that, when you get an Army Ranger or a Air Force combat controller, or anybody that steps up and says, yes, I struggled with post-traumatic stress, I struggled with alcohol, I had a relationship issue, then other people can go, wow, me too. So how did you get through that? And then you share that information. It's the transition AAR process, and it helps veterans recognize that they're not weird and broken, because it's like, what happens if you run and you sprain your ankle? Well, the doctor knows what to do because lots of other people have sprained their ankles. Right. So let's apply that process and heal your ankle. Well, lots of other people have had post-traumatic stress and alcohol issues and lack of purpose. We know how to fix that. So let's hop in and start going to work.
Right. Well, and it doesn't always have to be Nurse Ratchet and a lobotomy, right? I mean, the guys who are behind 12 steps and getting put in a plug on the jug were World War I veterans. And that influenced me when I was like, hey, maybe I should just hedge my bets and stop drinking entirely. And if I do hedge my bets and stop drinking entirely, what is the other life that I'm going to have outside of going and hanging out with my buddies? Oh, look at that. Me and my buddies can go and ride our motorcycles and shoot guns uninhibited by alcohol. Thumbs up. So you have to be able to find these things, which is difficult, right? And I understand what that's like, having personally gone.
Think about how many people, when they're 25 or 30 years old, or even 40 years old, maybe retiring after 20 years, have thought about what they want their life to be when they're 70 or 80 years old. They don't think about that. They think, man, I need to go to the bar tonight because I'm going to find somebody and I'm going to drink some beer and I'm going to party. But they're not thinking long-term. Does that move you towards your objectives? In most cases, they haven't thought what those objectives are. Mm-hmm. And one of the exercises that we do sometimes with veterans is imagine you're the veteran that just turned 100 and your town is like, yay, we're going to have a party. We're going to celebrate this 100-year-old veteran. Tell us what you did in your life. And the 100-year-old veteran is like, well, I got drunk every weekend, and I'm homeless now. No, that's not what you want it to be. You want it to be, well, yeah, I'm the guy that cured cancer, or,
right.
I built a business and hired 10 people and we did all this, whatever.
Yep.
But if you don't have that vision, it's like the Yoga Bear quote. If you don't know where you're going, you'll probably end up someplace else. So if you don't start out with the end in mind, Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People stuff, right?
Yeah.
Start with the end in mind. If you don't do that, I mean, in the military, would you go on a raid not knowing where the objective was? Oh, we're just going to go on a raid. Exactly. We're going to fly around until we see something.
Right. I'm not going anywhere unless somebody briefs me and there's a plan. We're betting our lives on this. Right. Exactly. And yet we'll show up to work every day and be like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to do whatever I did yesterday. There are tons of
I can't wait till 4 o'clock so I can clock out of this place. Right.
Right. Like, oh man, I don't want that existence. Oh, so badly, I don't want that existence. I tell you what, we see eye to eye on all of this. So, Karl Monger, gallantfew.org. Check out gallantfew.org right now. All right, a little bit of break in the action. Now is my favorite part of the episode when I get to ask people, what is the most recent book that you have read? And in Karl's case, I also get to ask, what's the most recent book that you have written? What have you got for us today, Karl?
Well, so because I'm an idiot, I have decided to get my master's in counseling and become a licensed counselor because, now I'm an amateur. But I want to have the power of a counseling license behind me and the organization as we go forward. So I've been doing a lot of reading on master's type stuff, right? I'm in my 3rd semester of master's school right now. So I'm not reading as many books as I like. I'm currently working on, I've got this here on my desk. I'm working on Living and Breathing, which is a novel about Vietnam, but it's written by Keith Nightingale, who was instrumental. He if I remember right, he was a major in what wasn't even JSOC yet when the Desert Storm, when the Iranian hostage rescue mission happened, Eagle Claw, when they tried to go, in the 80s and rescue so whenever it was. Anyway, he was a young staff officer then. And so he was kind of instrumental in a lot of the special operations stuff as it's built up, and was a Ranger battalion commander. So anyway, it's a great book, and I'm working on that one now.
What was the title of that again? Living and Breathing. Just Another Day in Vietnam. Living and Breathing. Just Another Day in Vietnam. Get it. It's by Keith M. Nightingale.
Nightingale.
There you go.
Yep, like Florence Nightingale.
Florence.
And I also recently read War in the Soul by Ed Tick. Okay. If you're familiar with Ed Tick, he is a psychologist that has done a tremendous amount of work starting with Vietnam veterans back in the 70s and 80s. And now he's continuing to work with men and women leaving the military now to heal the soul. And he uses a lot of shamanistic American Indian type of welcoming a warrior back, ceremonial type things. And he hasn't been able to do some of the retreats this year that he likes to do because they're in person. You go into a sweat lodge and you do that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But he does some virtual. And so if you get a chance to look up Ed Tick, just like the little blood-sucking bug, and his work is extremely pourful.
Excellent.
And for me, I appreciate the chance to put a plug in. Common Sense Transition is a book that I wrote now, 2.5 years ago. It was published. And I'm working on a revision to it. I'm also working on a second version that I may end up calling Common Courtesy, because one of the things that, not in veteran circles, but just in general life, courtesy is gone. Right. I flew this last weekend, week before last, I flew with my wife to visit family in North Dakota. And so we fly into Minneapolis, and it's a direct flight from Dallas to there, packed. Every seat on this American Airlines flight is full. Everybody's wearing masks. The masks suck. You don't get any service. They're not going to give any drinks or food. And people are just grumpy and discourteous. And I found myself being sucked into that little black hole of wanting to tell somebody, you know, to go pound sand. And you have to stop yourself for a minute and say, hey, this person is just as or more frustrated than me. So let's have a little courtesy. Let's do something nice for them. And then they're like, what are you doing? But there's Nick Kumlatzos, if you're familiar with him. He released a short little video on his Instagram and Facebook a couple of days ago that talks about that, the lack of common courtesy, and people are just outright nasty to each other. And that needs to change. That's part of, you know, I don't want to live in a world where everybody hates each other. It's not,
for sure.
That's not the way I want to live my life.
Well, I find it interesting also coming down to the culture where we call everybody sir or ma'am, where everybody else has, you know, a rank and according to rank. I was a sergeant when I got out of the Marine Corps. I haven't been called sergeant by anybody, you know, maybe a guy who called me up from the past life, so to speak, or something. Yeah. Well, how often do you get called sir where you go, you know, when you're walking around? Sir, ma'am are just basic things, basic functions of life. That's how we were raised. You know, so it's interesting from a cultural aspect. I commend you on writing that book. That's fantastic. And what is the title of your book again? And we're going to make sure to put it inside.
My book is Common Sense Transition.
Common Sense Transition.
Yep, you can get it on Amazon. It's on Audible as well, so you can listen to it if you like to listen to books. You can get the Kindle version there, and I will probably over the next year, the existing version that's there will come down, and I'm updating it with some newer resources. So it's a constant process.
Yeah,
and Adam Bird, I don't know if you're familiar with Adam Bird with Heroes.
Absolutely.
Adam is an awesome guy, and he's somebody that if you're thinking about telling your story in print, reach out to Adam Bird, and he can help you do that.
I totally second that recommendation. Heroes Media Group, we are a proud member of the Heroes Media Group network. So thank you for putting that plug in there. Adam is an awesome guy and a fellow veteran. Absolutely. This is great. I really appreciate you sharing all of that here on the 5 Paragraph Podcast. For people who want these books, we're going to add them to knowledge in 5paragraph.com. We always grow our knowledge bank with everyone that we've had on as a guest. So thank you for adding more books to our knowledge bank for fellow 5 Paragraph users to go and view at 5paragraph.com. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So, and I think of, by the way, I think of you all the time whenever I think of you and Thomas Paine. Common sense, right? So anyhow. But Karl Monger, gallantfew.org, you are a wealth of knowledge as well as a courageous individual with the undertaking that you're doing right now. How can listeners connect with you?
Okay, so that gets us to paragraph 4 and 5, right?
There it is.
So paragraph 4, service support. How do we pay for all this stuff that we do, right? Yep. We're a small organization. We've never raised more than just a hair under $900,000 in a year, which sounds like a lot, but 500 veterans year to date that we've served. So by the end of the year, we'll be between 750 and 1,000. That's not a lot of money when you look at the services that we're delivering to these veterans. So we need help, right? We need, and we exist on 100% private donations. We don't have any federal grants. We don't have any great big organizations. We have some companies that are very generous and help us. But we have a program that's called Patriot Challenge. We used to have Run Ranger Run. And Run Ranger Run started 9 years ago when one Army Ranger decided to become the physical embodiment of a difficult transition by running from Columbus, Georgia, where Fort Benning is, to his home in Indianapolis, because his wife had taken their 1-year-old daughter while he was on deployment and said, you be a dad or you be a Ranger, but you pick. And so he comes back from deployment, and so I can identify with this, right? Because now he has to go to his chain of command and say, my family's got to come first, so I quit. I totally identify with that. And so one of his NCOs knew about the work that we had just started doing with Rangers, because we're 10 years old now. And he said, hey, you should reach out to Karl, because he might be able to help you while you do this run. So we got some old fart Rangers. We got some Ranger Hall of Famers One of them was actually on the Iranian hostage rescue mission that went to Desert One, and he drove a chase vehicle. And Corey would run 20 miles, and then he would put a stake in the ground, and they'd pick him up, take him to a hotel, and we covered lodging, we got food. We were able to raise some money and do all of that. And we called it Run Ranger Run, like Run Forest Run. Yeah. And over the course of that, we got national attention because Robin Meade from CNN did a piece on Gallant Few and Corey Smith. And from that, trying to find somebody every year that wants to run 565 miles, because that's what he did in a month, it's hard to find people willing to do that. So we thought, well, let's see if we can get teams of 10 to do it. So can you and 9 of your friends take that 565 miles, divide by 10, it's 56 miles each. We do it in February, it's 2 miles a day. Can you commit to 2 miles a day, walking, running, biking, swimming, stair climbing, treadmill, whatever, low crawling, I don't care, just as long as you go out and do something. And so the first year that we did that, we had about 1,000 people that participated, and we raised $100,000. And it only cost about $5,000 to make it happen. So flash forward now, after 8 years, we're at the $400,000 mark, and it costs about $50,000 to raise that amount of money. Incredibly effective.
Excellent.
Because, hey, you're a Marine, right? And
I am.
My buddy Nick Kumalatzos is a Marine, and he's like, dude, it's Run Ranger Run. What Marine wants to do a Ranger thing? And he said, Marines we don't like to run, and run's in the name twice.
Right. Well, oh goodness.
I think they can't do it because it's running and it's Rangers. So we had some volunteers that got together, and they said, let's rebrand this thing. Instead of black and gold, which is Ranger colors, let's make it red, white, and blue. And instead of calling it Run Ranger Run, let's call it Patriot Challenge. So we've morphed this event into Patriot Challenge, which has a tagline of connecting America to her veterans. When you think about the lack of knowledge, lack of awareness of the civilian population about veterans, this gives us an opportunity to really make an impact on that. And we want to get 10, 20,000 people that participate this next February. And that's patriotchallenge.com. It's either .com or .org, but you can go to it through gallantfew.org as well. It's patriotchallenge.org. I know that for a fact because the .com goes somewhere else. Patriotchallenge.org. So we would love to have anyone that listens to this participate in Patriot Challenge. And if you have a corporate, like a veteran resource group in your company, let's say you work for AT&T or somebody like that, there are ways that we can help you put together a corporate fitness program. We don't like to say wellness because wellness is wishy-washy. We can help you incorporate Patriot Challenge into a corporate fitness program. So that makes up half of the donations that we get every year. And if we didn't have Run Ranger Run, now Patriot Challenge, you and I would not be having this conversation because I'd be punching a clock someplace.
There you go. We'll get signed up for the Patriot Challenge. Hey, there it is. Go to gallantfew.org to see all of this, as well as the book and Patriot Challenge and get help and everything. I like bringing people back, to the one, I guess you could say. But all right, so are you cool with people reaching out to you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, if you go to gallantfew.org in the top right, there's a contact us. My mobile phone number's in there.
Well, there you go. So, it's just that simple. Go ahead, throw them a text, maybe call. Hey, brother, what's going on? All right. Karl Monger, you're an awesome guy. You really are. We met years ago. I appreciate the opportunity
to be on the 5-paragraph. It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, it's a privilege, honestly. The honor and the privilege is all ours here. Sincerely. I met you a long time ago at a film festival, and that was the first time that you and I ever shook hands. And then after that, at all of these other different veteran-related functions, and you and I both know Adam, and it's amazing. It's wonderful to be adjacent units. So thank you, sir. The honor and the privilege is ours.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you said that, because there are some organizations out there that think that helping veterans is a competition. And it's not a competition, right? I don't care how much money you raise. I don't care if you raise more money than me. I don't care if you help more veterans. I hope you help more veterans than me. But let's all work together because there's somebody out there that's struggling and they're not getting reached because some people think it's a competition.
There you go. Perfect. All right, folks, this is why you subscribe, rate, review the 5-Paragraph Podcast. Go ahead, click subscribe, ring the bell, get the notifications. If you want all of our long-form interviews, like this interview with Karl Monger of gallantfew.org, uninterrupted, zero advertisement, join the 5P Inner Circle inside of our e-learning. Just go to 5paragraph.com right now, go to Access e-learning. You can join the 5P Inner Circle where we've got every interview that we've ever done on there. Karl, thank you so much for being here with us. 5P family, we look forward to the next time that we get to be a part of the conversation with you. And until then, take care and be well.
Yeah, we like to say be brave, be bold, be gallant.